Thank you for joining me, Diana Master, on NMH at 1. In this lunch hour, we will highlight the news making headlines in Namibia and beyond, ranging from current affairs, community stories, sports, and economic news. Here are the news headlines. Cabinet wants community service sentences for perpetrators charged with petty crimes. Plans to register a political party for the LGBTQI+ community. Sound Connects Fund hosts conference for creative entrepreneurs from across Southern Africa. Follow all our programs on oneup2.com or DSTV channel 285 and GoTV channel 25 in Namibia. Stick around, we'll be right back with our midday news update. The U.S. Coast Guard is leading an investigation into the loss of the Titan submersible that was carrying 5 people to the Titanic to determine what caused it to implode. The Coast Guard declared a major marine casualty last week after it learned that the Titanic-bound submersible had experienced a quote-unquote catastrophic implosion. The Titan's debris was found 1,600 feet from the Titanic's wreckage. Chief Investigator Captain Jason Neubauer said the salvage operations from the seafloor are ongoing and they have mapped the accident site. Neubauer said the primary goal is to prevent a similar occurrence by making the necessary recommendations to advance the safety of the maritime domain worldwide. Visual News brings you local stories from across Namibia right after the break. Stay with NMH at 1.
To another exciting episode of Iran with Top.
Is die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik gaan byt.
In visual news this afternoon, the Sound Connects Fund over the weekend hosted a welcoming dinner with creative entrepreneurs from different parts of Southern Africa who are in Namibia for a week-long creative conference. Implemented by Music in Africa Foundation and Goethe Institute, the Sound Connects Fund is a multifaceted initiative which aims to accelerate development and increase the capacity of the cultural and creative sectors in Southern Africa by offering financial support in the form of grants and robust capacity building programs to eligible creative and cultural industry organizations based in Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Let's take a look.
Good evening. My name is Priscilla Mwasenga. I'm here with the Sound Connects team. Sound Connects is a project which is run by Goethe Institute in South Africa and also Music in Africa Foundation with funding from the EU ACP Cultural Program. We have got a budget of over 4 million euros to run this project, and it is lasting for about 3.5 years. It will be completed next year in April. In Namibia this week, we are hosting our grantees from 14 organizations in Southern Africa, and they manage projects in different sectors: music, film, gaming, fashion, animation, a lot of projects, diverse projects. And our grantees are coming from many of the countries in SADC, namely Zambia, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Namibia, of course, Mozambique, Angola, Lesotho, and Eswatini. So we'll be here to do some networking, capacity building, exchange, so that we can input in the cultural and creative sector in Southern Africa. Thank you so much.
Now Now, Cabinet has directed the Justice Ministry to devise a law that empowers courts to impose community service sentences on perpetrators charged with petty crimes. Stick around for the full story in today's newspaper review segment coming up after the break.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toivon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact Agenda at synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. We now take a look at what the lead stories are in Namibia's daily newspapers. Cabinet has directed the Justice Ministry to devise a law that empowers courts to impose community service sentences on perpetrators charged with petty crimes, a move which could decongest overcrowded jail cells. The directive, which comes amid increasing levels of crime across the country and prisons bursting at their seams, was amongst cabinet decisions made public by government last week. Under the current laws, courts are restricted when it comes to imposing community service sentences. Moving over to the Namibian Sun's page 4, the 28th Annual General Meeting of the Southern African Regional Police Chiefs Corporation Organization took place from the 19th to the 23rd of June at the Swakopmund Hotel and Entertainment Center. The platform provides a launchpad to extend the frontier of peace and security in the SADC region in tandem with Vision 2050. Safety and Security Minister Albert Kawana said since its establishment in 1995, SAPCO has transformed the policing arena not only in Southern Africa, but beyond. Moving over to the front page of the Republican. When I started the business, I had no plans, capital or tools. I ran the business with a drilling machine and a toolbox that was half full. If I needed pliers, I had to buy or borrow them, says Armand Leroux, the owner of Handy Armand in Swakopmund. Armand, a qualified and experienced mechanic, said goodbye to Windhoek and moved to Swakopmund to be closer to his daughter, Annie. He says his past in the capital was not rosy and he wanted to turn over a new leaf. The one-day visit of the Prime Ministers of Denmark and the Netherlands, Mette Frederiksen and Mark Rutte, last week produced several agreements for the development of a local green hydrogen industry, reports Republicane's page 3. The leaders accompanied delegations of business people from these European countries to Namibia. During a business forum organized by the Namibian Board for the Promotion of Investments and Development in the capital, some of the agreements were announced. On its front page, the Algemene Zeitung leads with a report about the annual financial statements of the state-owned abattoir and meat processing company Meatco, which was published in Grootfontein this past Friday. The company seems to be doing better than in the previous year, with a loss of 118 million Namibian dollars, but this must also be ascribed to the fact that the government has awarded the enterprise a grant of 86 million Namibian dollars out of the taxpayers' funds. On its page 2, the Algemene Zeitung reports about the funeral service of Theo Borslap, who was a prominent businessman and community leader. Kolia and family, today I come to you with the love and sympathy of more than 40,000 residents of Oshwarongo who mourn with you during this difficult time. Those were the words of Oshwarongo Mayor Gottlieb Shivute as hundreds of people gathered at the Paresis Stadium on Friday to bid farewell to a man who was clearly widely respected in his community. After the break, we return with the second half of our newspaper review segment, starting with what leads on the Namibian front page.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
You're still watching NMH at 1, getting into the second half of our newspaper review. Starting off the Namibian front page, a Grootfontein resident accused of providing support to a radical Islamist organization placed under international counter-terrorism sanctions has appeared in court on charges under Namibia's law against terrorist activities. Jonah Hangula made a brief first appearance on charges under the Prevention and Combating of Terrorist and Proliferation Activities Act of 2014 in the Windhoek Magistrates Court on Friday. Hangula was arrested on Wednesday last week. Hangula is the first person known to have been charged under the anti-terrorism law, which came into effect in July 2014. Attempts by the National Assembly to enact 13 critical bills in record time may be placed on hold after activist Job Amopanda brought an urgent petition to halt the legislative process, reports the Namibians page 3. This follows cabinet ministers tabling proposals that need to be passed by the end of the month to avoid Namibia being grey-listed by the Financial Action Task Force. Moving over to the New Era newspaper, a total of 11 officers of the Namibian Correctional Service in Windhoek have been involved in smuggling prohibited goods into the correctional services facilities in over a period of 3 years. This was revealed by the Namibian Correctional Services Deputy Commissioner Veiko Armas on Saturday during an anti-contraband annual campaign aimed at sensitizing inmates and the public on the effects of contraband under the theme Uniting the Nation Against Contraband. President Hage Geingob has urged public servants to provide diligent and timely service delivery to citizens to attain effective governance. Geingob, in a press statement on Friday in commemoration of the United Nations and Africa Public Service Day, said to build a prosperous and integrated Africa through trade, public servants should ensure citizens, investors, tourists, and all those who require public services are treated with respect and are provided with the services they need in a diligent and timeless manner. Moving over to Market Watch, the Namibian dollar and the South African rand, to which it is pegged, struggled on Friday as traders avoided riskier currencies. By Friday evening, the rand and the Namibian dollar were down more than 1% and trading at 18.76 rand to the US dollar. One Namibian dollar cost $23.84 to the British pound and 20 Namibian dollars and 49 cents to the euro. The Namibian dollar and rand lost more than 3% last week. The US dollar was higher against the euro on Friday after data showed U.S. business activity growth slowed in June, but services kept humming along, and as the U.S. currency drew support from a bout risk of aversion driven by hawkish comments from global central banks. Keeping in line with financial news, during the past fiscal year, Meadco incurred a loss of 118 million Namibian dollars, with auditors from Grand Namibia saying the organization has reached a point where it can only continue to exist with government assistance. We discuss the measures after the break as we head into economic news.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toivon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com, and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact Agenda at synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
And now for your economic news. During the past fiscal year, Meadco incurred a loss of 118 million Namibian dollars, with auditors from Grand Namibia saying the organization has reached a point where it can only continue to exist with government assistance. The auditors believe there are significant uncertainties about Meadco as a going concern, and that the institution's losses would have been much larger, around 204 million Namibian dollars, if government had not provided it a lifeline of 86 million Namibian dollars. This is because Meadco's total assets minus total liabilities or equity would be in the negatives without this funding. Currently, its equity stands at nearly 65 million Namibian dollars and its debt burden is 670.7 million Namibian dollars, with the Development Bank of Namibia bearing the greatest risk. However, Meadco's net loss after tax improved from 205.1 million Namibian dollars in the previous fiscal year to the current 118 million Namibian dollars, with revenue also increasing by 15% from 752 million Namibian dollars to 865 million Namibian dollars. This according to a media statement issued over the weekend following a producers' annual general meeting held outside Grootfontein on Friday. Now let's take a look at the economic indicators, proudly brought to you by Bank Windhoek. The Namibian dollar trades at $23.84 to the British pound and 80 Namibian dollars and 75 cents buys you $1. Meanwhile, you can expect to spend 2 Namibian dollars and 59 cents to incur 1 Chinese yuan. Looking at stock closing prices, MTC stocks are on a downturn of 0.10%, while Capricorn Investment Group, First Rand Namibia and Lechego Holdings are all on an upturn. Still looking at NSX stock closing prices, local index closed on an upturn of 1.13%, while overall index closed on a dip of 1.27%. Looking at commodities, gold and platinum on an upturn, meanwhile copper and Brent crude oil took a dip. Now extending beyond Namibia's borders, we start off in South Africa, where sadly Mpumalanga hospitals are under attack. Ambulance hijacked, hospital vandalized and staff robbed. More on this after the break.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
We now expand beyond Namibia's borders to give you the latest news from the African continent here on NMH at 1. 2 Mpumalanga healthcare facilities came under attack in just 1 week. In the one incident, an ambulance was hijacked, and in the second incident, a hospital was vandalized and staff were robbed. In the first incident in Carolina last weekend, according to Community Safety, Security and Liaison MEC Vusi Shongwe, people who were injured during a fight at a tavern were taken to Carolina Provincial Hospital. When one of the people died of his injuries, the group began vandalizing the hospital. They also attacked and robbed the hospital staff on duty at the time, he said. The second incident occurred on Sunday morning. According to the MEC, a group of men held up a security guard at the entrance of the Paula Nsikazi Community Health Center in Bombela before opening fire on the driver of an ambulance. The driver was injured. He said the gunman then made off with the ambulances. Kenya's President William Ruto has signed into law his government's first finance bill, which seeks to boost revenue through raising taxes on a number of items. One of the most controversial changes approved by Parliament last week was a doubling of value-added tax to be charged on fuel. It's rising from 8% to 16%. Employees will also hand over 1.5% of their gross pay for a housing levy that will go into a fund that will then pay to build homes for low-income people. President Ruto, who was elected last year, has said that the government needs more money in order to be able to pay off the debts racked up under the presidency of his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta. But the opposition have said they would call for protests if the tax rises come into effect. That's it for news from Africa. Stick around for international news. Russia seeks to restore calm today after an aborted mutiny by Wagner Group mercenaries over the weekend, while Western allies assessed how President Vladimir Putin might reassert authority and what it could mean for the war in Ukraine. Ending their short-lived mutiny, Wagner fighters halted their rapid advance on Moscow, withdrew from the southern Russian city of Rostov, and headed back to their bases late on Saturday under a deal that guaranteed their safety. Their commander, Yevgeny Prigozhin, would move to Belarus under the deal mediated by Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. Today has been declared a non-working day in Moscow to allow time for things to settle, and there was little evidence of increased security in the capital on Sunday evening. Putin, who has held power for more than 2 decades, has still to comment publicly since the de-escalation of one of his biggest challenges to his rule. A roller coaster derailed at a Swedish theme park on Sunday, killing 1 person and injuring 7, police and the park in Stockholm said. A carriage of the Jetline roller coaster broke away and fell from a great height, taking several people with it, according to a correspondent for Swedish television SVT at the Gröna Lund theme park. The ride, launched in 1988, travels at around 90 kilometers per hour. 1 person unfortunately died, Gröna Lund spokeswoman Cecilia Björling told AFP. Stockholm police confirmed that 7 people were injured and taken to hospital. The injuries were caused by falls, said Stockholm police spokeswoman Elena Bostrom Thomas. The park was evacuated and police and ambulances were sent to the scene. Stick around, we return with local sports news right after this break.
Welcome to Active Kids, a daily TV show that sparks creativity, learning, and fun for young minds. With exciting activities and lessons, Active Kids inspires curiosity and a love for learning.
New face to the
15.
The perfect mix of play and education. Don't miss out on the fun. Tune in to Active Kids on NTV every weekday at 10 o'clock and let the adventure begin.
To another exciting episode of Wat Top.
Jou is die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik kan byt.
In local sports this afternoon, Tura Magic ladies were officially crowned as champions of the FNB Women's Super League on Saturday. The club showed their dominance by beating Rightway Phoenix 17-1 at the Namibia Football Association Technical Centre. Coach Shamagure said he was pleased with the outcome following his team's success. The coach added heading into the CAF Champions League is a morale booster. This will elevate the players and the club in general, with hope that they can deliver good results, he added. The 5th round of the Namibian National MX Championships on Saturday at Galena MX Park in Brakwater was once again a huge success. Although the school holidays played a role in the decreased number of entries, the 50cc, 65cc and 125cc classes were the best represented, with 16 competitors of the 35 entries. The highlight of the day was, as usual, the King of the Dirt race, as at the end, with several classes in the starting gate for the last race of the day on a perfectly prepared track. The talented Juan de Vos raced excellently on his 85cc bike to end 9th overall in King of the Dirt. The annual rubbish run organized by Windhoek Harriers started and finished at the DTS Sports Grounds in Olympia on Saturday, attracting approximately 160 participants who enjoyed either a 10-kilometer or 21-kilometer run. Despite the cold weather with early morning temperatures as low as 6 degrees Celsius, runners were enthusiastic about the event. In the 10-kilometer race, Philemon Shilongo emerged victorious, completing the race in an impressive time of 39 minutes. Shilongo said he loved the route, but admitted that cold conditions had an impact on his performance. Among the junior participants in the 10-kilometer race, Ethan Brinkman secured the first position with a time of 40 minutes. Stick around, we'll be back after this ad break with our international sports news.
to another exciting episode of Irongo Top. We bring jou
Die is weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik kan byt.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toivon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com, and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact Agenda at synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
Starting off our international sports news this afternoon, the Toyota Cheetahs produced a masterclass of pressure play to claim their 7th Currie Cup title and dethrone the Airlink Pumas 25-17 in the final in Bloemfontein on Saturday. The Cheetahs' loose forwards in particular were rampant in an enthralling game as the home side outscored the Pumas 3-1 in what was eventually the telling difference between the sides. It was a typical final where both teams which were not willing to give an inch. It would come down to who handled the big moments better, and in this case it was the Cheetahs who shaded the play just a bit with their defense and breakdown play, giving them the edge in a close contest. World number 1 Carlos Alcaraz has no doubts he will compete in Saudi Arabia at some point and said the country has the power to hold plenty of tournaments after the ATP Tour began talks about a potential partnership with its sovereign wealth fund. ATP chairman Andrea Gaudenzi told the Financial Times last week he has held discussions with Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund and other potential investors on projects including infrastructure, events and technology investment. The report quoted Gaudenzi as saying any potential investors had to respect the history of the sport and work with current stakeholders. Now, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta believes the Gunners have to strengthen in the transfer market if they are to topple Manchester City as Premier League champions next season. Arteta's men topped the table for much of last season but faltered down to the stretch after suffering injuries to key players. City went on to steal their 4th Premier League title in 5 years and complete the treble by winning the FA Cup and Champions League. Both clubs are reportedly in a bidding war for West Ham captain Declan Rice, while Arsenal are also set to land Kai Havertz from Chelsea. That is our ambition, Arteta told Marca about his hopes of winning the title. If you're just joining us, this is NMH at 1, and we will get into the highlights from today's broadcast right after this.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
You're watching NMH at 1, and if you're just joining us, here are the news highlights. 2 Mpumalanga healthcare facilities came under attack in just 1 week. In the one incident, an ambulance was hijacked, and in the second incident, a hospital was vandalized and staff were robbed. In some international news, Russia sought to restore calm on Monday after an aborted mutiny by Wagner Group mercenaries over the weekend, while Western allies assessed how President Vladimir Putin might reassert authority and what it could mean for the war in Ukraine. In sports, Tour Magic ladies were crowned the champions of the FNB Women's Super League on Saturday after the club showed their dominance by beating Rightway Phoenix 17-1. Those have been your highlights. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. to spend your lunch hour with NMH at 1, catching up on the latest news in Namibia, Africa, and the world. That is it from us in studio, and we wish you a lovely Monday ahead.